Alrighty, without further ado, I'm going to give you guys the examples of damage with Windstorm. Of course, there's a lot of question on whether or not the damage is worthwhile, and I think I've actually put together some numbers and gotten a conclusion. Of course, just giving you the numbers and saying which one is better is not going to do any good, so I'm actually going to show you guys my process here as well. So first off, I've got these damage clips here in this video with, you can see it's showing the damage of Windstorm. There's two examples of this, and then of course you have damage of regular rotation. And the reason I'm using Windows Live Movie Maker is because you see down here, you can literally see the milliseconds as time rolls by, so I can very carefully select the time length and segments of these clips of damage, so that I can be as accurate in how many seconds I'm counting the damage as possible, and then of course have a more solid number to divide the total by. So I'm adding all of the numbers up that I'm seeing during these clips, and then of course taking that combined total and dividing it by the number of seconds that the clip is. So that effectively gives you the damage per second that you're doing with these abilities. Okay. I'm going to start by showing you the clips of the damage themselves, and then I'm actually going to go into the math. So, these are the first two examples of the first two Windstorm damage clips. So up here, and I was counting the time in Windows Movie Maker at the time of the, it's in the middle of a full clip, and then I cut it out. So this clip, the first clip, the start time was 26.73 seconds, and then the finish time, and the first time being the first impact, the first hit. The finish time being the last impact, the very last hit that I have in that sequence. And so that's 31.78 seconds. So the duration here, we've got 5.05 seconds. So that's the exact time there. Here you can see the damage impacts in sequence. These are all the numbers. I was using a pen and fucked up right there. And so, aside from that one miscalculation, I did go through again and make sure I had all these other numbers right. And then we come to this total of 68,835. See if I can get it to focus a little better here. Okay, and so then of course the combined total, 68,835 divided by 5.05, which is the duration. You have this number as your DPS, 13,630.6930, some other numbers. So that's your damage. That was for the first clip. So now moving on to the second clip. We have example number 2, the start time during this clip, which was the first impacts of the first Windstorm hit when the mob went. This time it went down with heat wave, and I actually got a few hits off before my friend grabbed, and the grab is 5 seconds, so I got a bit of extra time here. So the first impact was at 44.51. The finish time, the last impact, was at 50.48. So we have duration of almost 6 seconds exactly, 5.97 seconds. Okay, so here's all the damage numbers in sequence again, and this time I didn't fuck up, and I made sure that these were all the numbers you were seeing, and all of these 110s, the 300 damage procs, those are coming from my gems. So the 300 additional damage on hit, the 110 additional damage on proc. So that's where those extra little miniature numbers are coming from. And so here we have the combined total of 229 divided by 5.97, which is the duration. We have 13,941.2060, etc. DPS. All right, so there's your DPS examples for Windstorm. Now let's compare. All right, so the second clip might have been a little bit confusing because it's split into two segments, but I can assure you I was carefully watching the time, and it is an exact segment of seconds, and of course I've got it written out here. It's in pencil, so it might be a little harder to read. I stopped using pen when I messed up on the other example. But so the regular damage example, and the reason that I split it into two is because this is the one with the bulk of your cooldowns. It's the one with Meteor Shower. You've got your short fuse rolling. I used Inferno and Dual Dragons, which I did not use for the second half of the clip. So here you have the start time, the first impacts, and this is where the first burn application applied in this segment. So I literally started counting the time at the millisecond that the burn hit the enemy and damage came after. So we have the starting time of, it was at 3 minutes of this clip, so 3:04.62. And then end time, we've got the last impact after all the cooldowns had expired, or I've used, after I had got Meteor Shower, Dual Dragons, Inferno, and Short Fuse off. And this was at 3:15.62, so we have the duration of this time. It was exactly 11 seconds. So then, of course, here you have all the numbers. I added all of them up painstakingly through flipping through frames one by one and making sure I had all the numbers correctly. And then we have the damage total. 138,943. I was being dumb for a second there. Divided by 11 seconds, which is the duration, is 12,631.181818, repeating until it hits 2 damage per second. So yeah, let's just look at this again here. Windstorm damage per second, shorter duration, of course, and damage with all of your cooldowns going. Yeah. And now, of course, the argument could be made that, oh, maybe I wasn't doing the rotation perfectly, but, it's really up to you to look at the video and check that out fine. And, of course, this is only using the build that runs Fire Fury opposed to the build that just blasts Dragon Blazes. But it certainly seems like, right here from this calculation, that, during the bulk of your damage cooldowns, you are even still doing less DPS than when you have Windstorm up. And this, of course, is taking the left 3 points in Windstorm. And then, so just for the further sake of comparison, we will take a look at the regular damage without the cooldowns. So the start time was at 3:15.91, the end time, and this was the time after the first set of damage, so as soon as the first set of numbers ended, like where I stopped counting them on my previous list, I started counting numbers for this calculation. So that was at 3:15.91. It was approximately 2.9 millisecond or 0.29 milliseconds after the previous set of numbers stopped. And then we have the finish time, the end of the time frame. And this time, of course, I just set a time frame. I wasn't counting the Windstorm hits. I just wanted to get approximately the same amount of time. So we have the difference of, 3:15.91, 3:26.92. So we have 11, almost exactly 11 seconds, 11.01. So then, of course, you have your damage calculations. I was using pencil and erased the right column this time because I had started writing down way too many numbers when I should have stopped right there at 36:32. I was not paying attention to the time, and then I went back and was like, oh wait, the 11 seconds stops right there at 36:32, and then I erased all the rest. So I added up all these numbers right here, got the total of 104,565. Sorry if it's just a little hard to read. That almost looks like a 9. This camera's a little weird and the pencils, makes it harder to see. So that's 104,565 divided by 11.01. Not even 10,000 damage per second. You're doing about 9,497.2752 continued damage per second here. So I think we have a winner, and I mean, this is still according to my current stats, 392 AP, about 52% crit, about 195% crit damage. So there you go. This is the Windstorm DPS, approximately, and I got this pretty similar numbers from both of them. And then you have your regular DPS when you're doing your rotation, and your DPS from your rotation when you're using all of your cooldowns. Is Windstorm viable? Yes, it is. And it is quite good. So there you guys go. That's Windstorm.